It's really a pleasure to have all of you here this afternoon, and it's really a pleasure to have such a distinguished panel members. You probably already know all of the panel members. We have Omul Tral, who is the president of IOC, the International Organization for Cooperation and Evaluation. We have Lance Lundgren, who is the chair of the OECD DAC working group on development evaluations. We have Dennis Jobin, who is the vice president of IDEAS. And we have Bob Picciotto, who we heard yesterday from Ray. He's the godfather of IDEAS. And he's also in the European Evaluation Society and in the UK Evaluation Society, and he has been also the Director General of Evaluation at the World Bank. So I think we will have a very interesting session today. The idea of the session today is I will start with an introduction about country-led M&E systems, and I will end my introduction with a couple of questions to provoke a bit of debate, and then each one of the panel members will also contribute some ideas. And then we will open the floor for a debate. And actually, I think the interesting issue would be not just question and answer from the audience to the panel, but really a discussion, a dialogue among all ourselves. So this presentation is based on this book that all of you already received in the conference package. It's a book that was produced by UNICEF in cooperation with IDEAS, with IOC, with the VINFO, and I have to mention that we have here in the room also Nicolas Pron, who is the global VINFO manager. And I invite you to come back after the coffee break for the next session, because the next session will be a follow-up of this one. The next session will be a follow-up focusing on good practices and experiences in country-led M&E systems. So, first of all, I would say everybody agrees that M&E should be instrumental in ensuring effective decision-making by providing strong evidence. Then, why is M&E not playing its role to its full potential? What are the factors, in addition to the quality and the adequacy of evidence, influencing the decision-making process in organizations and societies? How can the uptake of evidence in decision-making be increased? So the objective of this session today is to try to address some of these questions. But first of all, let's see what we mean with evidence-based policy making. There are many definitions out there in the literature. Here is one, and it says that evidence-based policy making is an approach that helps people make well-informed decisions by putting the best available evidence at the heart of the policy development and implementation. So that's the theory. But then when we go to the practice, we can see what's happened. We all know that reality is very complex, so I try to simplify a bit, and please forgive me if it's too simple, this model, but it's just because of the time that we have that is quite short. So if we want to simplify the issue, we can say that evidence-based policy making, it depends mainly on the technical quality of evidence on the one side, as well as on the enabling policy environment on the other side. So on the practice of political life in the country, on the timing of the analysis, on the personal judgment and experience of the policymakers, on the resources available, and also on the so-called lobby system in the country. So, we may find ourselves, or a country, in this situation where you have low technical quality and also a very weak enabling environment, where the society is not conducive, is not open, is not transparent. In this case, we talk about opinion-based policy making. next situation is where we have strong evidence available that it technically is sound, but we have a low enabling environment. In this case, we say that we have we are quite good in the supply side, but the problem is on the demand side, because policymakers, they do not ask, they do not demand for evidence to take decisions. So here we talk about evidence influence policy making, and here is the situation of a country where there is evidence demand constraint. Another situation is where you have a low technical quality available, but a high demand from the policymaker. So the society is open, is conducive, civil society is strong, so there is a transparent dialogue, but the evidence that is available is not sound. So we are in a situation where we can talk about evidence supply constrained countries. And finally, we have the situation where you have strong evidence available and a very conducive society where the policymakers demand for evidence to take decisions and the evidence is available. I don't know if there is any country on earth that could be put on that place, but probably that's more or less what we should aim to. So, how could we try to aim to that? So, again, trying to simplify the reality, when it comes to evidence-based policy making, we have two big groups of stakeholders. We have the data provider, the evaluators, the researcher, the statisticians, and the policymaker, the data users on the other side. And usually these two groups, they are seldomly together. Usually you have meeting with data providers only or meeting with data users only, and that's a bit of an issue. If you ask to the data users why you are not using the evidence available at the maximum extent as possible, probably they will tell you, well, the data that is available in my country is not reliable, is not trustworthy. They will tell you, well, I don't have time to go and read the 200 pages report full of table and numbers. So data providers should try to translate the evidence in key messages, in key policy messages. So they should improve the usability of evidence. They will also talk about dissemination and access. They will also say, when I need evidence, I don't know where to find it. I don't know how to get it. So there is also this issue of access. If you pose the same question to the data providers of why data users are not really using data and evidence at the maximum extent as possible, probably they will say you, well, because the policymakers, they do not have appropriate buy-in, or maybe because they do not have incentive to use evidence, and there will be also many other reasons. But the point that I would like to make here is that there is a need to improve the dialogue between these two groups of stakeholders, between the data providers and the data users. Because at the end of the day, the data users are the ones that they know what evidence they need, they know why they need that evidence, and when they need that evidence. While the data providers are the ones that know how to collect this evidence. So this brings me to the issue of the quality of evidence. Sometimes people think that when it comes to quality of evidence, it refers only to technical rigor. But we may find ourselves in a situation where we have evidence that is technically rigorous enough, but is not relevant from a policy point of view. So therefore it won't be used. We can find ourselves in the opposite position where